Rain poured endlessly over the city of New York that night, washing the streets clean of their usual glow and laughter. Inside a small 24-hour diner, the only sound was the clinking of plates and the soft hum of an old radio. Amelia Reed, 25, exhausted, and soaked from the rain, wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time. She had been working double shifts for weeks just to cover her mother's hospital bills. Her shoes were worn, her uniform faded, but her smile never disappeared completely. She believed that kindness, even in the smallest form, could make the world a bit less cruel. It was 1:43 a.m. when the diner door burst open. A man stumbled in, clutching his chest, his tailored suit soaked with rain and streaked with what looked like blood. Amelia froze for a second. His face looked familiar. His name? Ethan Blackwood. The Ethan Blackwood. Billionaire investor, owner of half the skyscrapers in downtown Manhattan, and the kind of man who made the front page of every magazine. But tonight, he didn't look like the untouchable tycoon from the news. His face was pale, his breath came out in gasps. His hand trembled as he gripped the counter. Please," he muttered weakly. "Help me." Amelia rushed from behind the counter. "Sir, you're bleeding. What happened?" He collapsed before he could answer. The sound of his body hitting the floor echoed through the quiet diner. "Call an ambulance." She shouted to the cook, but the old man shook his head. "Phones are down, kid. The storm killed the lines an hour ago." Her heart raced. She had to act fast. "Hang in there," she whispered, crouching beside him. She unbuttoned his shirt just enough to see a deep gash across his chest. It wasn't a gunshot, but it looked like he'd been in an accident. Maybe a car crash. His pulse was fading fast. Amelia grabbed the first aid kit from under the counter, tearing open bandages with shaking hands. Her fingers pressed against the wound to slow the bleeding. Ethan winced, trying to push her away. "Don't touch me." "Sorry, sir," she said through clenched teeth, "but I'm not about to let you die on my floor." For the next 15 minutes, she did everything she could, cleaning, applying pressure, whispering words of encouragement she wasn't even sure he could hear. Then, just as his breathing steadied, he passed out completely. The paramedics finally arrived after nearly 40 minutes, thanks to the flooded streets. They rushed Ethan onto a stretcher. One of them turned to Amelia. "You did a good job, miss. If you hadn't stopped the bleeding, he wouldn't have made it." Her knees went weak with relief. When they asked for her name, she hesitated. "It's Amelia Reed." The medic smiled. "You might have just saved a billionaire's life tonight." She laughed softly. "I'd have done the same for anyone." After they left, she went back to cleaning the bloodstained tiles. Her hands trembled not from fear, but from the realization that she'd just seen death up close. She didn't expect to ever hear from him again. But 3 days later, a sleek black car pulled up outside the diner. A man in a suit stepped out. "Are you Amelia Reed?" She blinked. "Yes." "Why?" "Mr. Blackwood requests your presence." Immediately, Ethan Blackwood's penthouse overlooked the entire city. It was like stepping into another world. Glass walls, marble floors, quiet music playing in the background. When Amelia entered, she felt like she didn't belong there. Her worn sneakers squeaked against the polished floor. Ethan stood by the window, wearing a crisp black shirt, a faint scar still visible on his chest. His expression was unreadable. "You're the waitress," he said simply. "Yes, sir." He turned, eyes narrowing slightly. "Do you know who I am?" "Of course," she replied. "You're Ethan Blackwood. Everyone knows you." "And yet," he said slowly, "you risked your life to help me without hesitation." She frowned. "You were dying. What was I supposed to do? Ignore you because you're rich?" That made him chuckle for the first time. "Fair point." He studied her for a long moment. "You saved my life. I owe you." Amelia shook her head quickly. "You don't owe me anything. I just did what anyone decent would do." "Wrong," he said quietly. "Most people wouldn't. Not these days." He stepped closer. "Tell me, what do you want most right now?" She hesitated. Her mind flashed to her mother's hospital room, the bills piled up on her kitchen table. But she couldn't ask for money. It felt wrong. "I just want my mom to get better," she whispered. Something flickered in Ethan's eyes. The next morning, Amelia woke up to the sound of knocking. When she opened the door, a courier handed her a letter embossed with the Blackwood Industries logo. Inside was a single message: "Meet me at St. Mary's Hospital, Room 407. Her heart skipped. That was her mother's hospital. When she arrived, she saw Ethan standing by her mother's bedside, speaking with the doctors. Her mother looked brighter, her cheeks flushed with color. Ethan turned as Amelia entered. Your mother's surgery has been scheduled. Fully paid for. Amelia's jaw dropped. What? You can't. I can, he interrupted gently. And I already did. Tears welled in her eyes. Why would you do that for me? Because you saved me when I had no one else, he said softly. I don't usually believe in fate, Miss Reed. But I think we were meant to meet that night. Days turned into weeks. Amelia's mother recovered miraculously. Ethan visited often, not as a billionaire, but as a man genuinely grateful for a second chance at life. He started bringing coffee from her favorite cafe, asking her about her dreams. One evening, he asked, "What did you study before all this?" "I wanted to be a nurse," she said shyly. "But college was expensive. I had to drop out." He smiled faintly. "Then let's fix that." Within days, she received an acceptance letter from New York Medical College with tuition fully paid by the Blackwood Foundation. When she tried to thank him, he simply said, "You earned, of course." The world noticed. Tabloids went wild. Billionaire and Waitress secret affair. Who was the mystery girl behind Ethan Blackwood's transformation? Amelia hated the attention. She wanted no part in gossip or wealth. She just wanted a normal life. But Ethan faced the cameras calmly, telling reporters, "She's the reason I'm alive." If that makes her newsworthy, so be it. Privately, he told Amelia, "Ignore them. Let them talk. They don't know what you really are." "And what am I?" she asked. "The bravest person I've ever met." The truth about his past. One night, Ethan invited her to his estate outside the city. They walked through his private garden, surrounded by soft lights and the scent of jasmine. He stopped near a fountain and said quietly, "The night you found me, I wasn't just hurt. I was running from someone." Amelia frowned. "Running?" He nodded. "A former business partner. He tried to have me killed." "The accident wasn't an accident, it was sabotage." She gasped. "You mean someone tried to?" "Yes." He sighed. "I'd made enemies, Amelia. When you live for power, you stop seeing people. You stop trusting. That night, I realized something. Money couldn't save me. But a stranger's kindness did." Amelia's heart ached for him. "You don't have to go through it alone." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I don't anymore." Love in the quiet moments. Months passed. Amelia finished her nursing program while still working part-time. Ethan often stopped by the diner. Not as a billionaire, but as a man who enjoyed sitting at the counter, drinking cheap coffee, and watching her laugh. It became their routine, his private escape from the corporate world. One evening, as they cleaned up together, he said quietly, "I used to think I had everything. But now, I realize I was empty." Amelia looked up, smiling softly. "And now I have a reason to live." Their eyes met, and the silence between them spoke louder than words. One night, Ethan offered her a position as his company head nurse for the Blackwood Foundation's new medical outreach program. "I don't want you to feel like I'm buying your gratitude," he said. "You've earned this. You have the skills, and I need someone I can trust." Amelia hesitated. "You really trust me that much?" He smiled. "With my life." She accepted. The next year was a whirlwind. She helped open clinics in poor neighborhoods, trained new nurses, and became known for her compassion. The media began calling her the Angel of Blackwood Foundation. Ethan stood by her side through it all, proud, protective, and quietly in love. On the anniversary of the night she saved him, Ethan invited her back to the same diner. The rain was falling again, just like before. He smiled as they sat at her old table. "Do you remember what you told me that night?" She laughed. "I said you were bleeding all over my floor." He grinned. "Right. And you still didn't run away." Then, slowly, he reached into his coat and placed a small velvet box on the table. Her breath caught. "Amelia Reed," he said softly, "you saved my life when I didn't think it was worth saving. You showed me what real kindness looks like. You taught me that love doesn't need to come from wealth, it comes from courage." He opened the box. Inside was a simple, elegant ring. Tears filled her eyes. "Ethan," she paused, smiling through her tears. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." Years later, people would still talk about the billionaire who married a waitress. Some called it a fairy tale. Others said it was luck. But those who knew the truth understood it wasn't luck at all. It was destiny. Because on a stormy night, when the world had turned its back, one woman's compassion changed everything, and one man's gratitude became a love story that would last forever. As Amelia stood on the balcony of their home, watching the city lights below, Ethan wrapped his arms around her. "Funny," he whispered, "how the poorest person I ever met turned out to be the richest soul I've ever known." She smiled. "And the loneliest billionaire became my greatest miracle." And with that, the rain fell softly again, just like the night they first met.